Marhaba and hello once again. I'm American historian and writer Dr. Jack Dempsey, living in Crete these days. And with me, as always, is my friend, writer, and historian Muhammad Jihad Ismael, who is the father of a wonderful family living in the Gaza territory in Deir al-Balah. Today is Monday, October 2nd, 2023. Muhammad and I, as usual, are doing our part to try to keep the discussion of Palestinian issues, their struggle for equality alive, and we speak to what we think is a growing audience of people who share that belief and that struggle for the recognition of Palestinian humanity. They need to be seen as human beings so that the world can help them to break out of the prison that they've been confined in Gaza and in the occupied territories in Jerusalem too, and begin to make progress in the happiness that they once all knew living in their land, once called and still called Palestine. We feel that when you hear every report, the true situation and the circumstances of how Gazans live, shortages of food, clean water, medicine, unable to travel, unable to leave that walled in prison called Gaza. Usually people want to know, well, what can I do? Well, you can do three things: write, call, email repeatedly your own government and tell them that you demand changes in policy in the relationship between your government and the apartheid Israeli state. Second, practice BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions. Don't buy products that have been produced in the Israeli occupied territories, but instead hunt down on the internet, for example, Palestinian olive oil, which is among the best in the world, and it will mean so much, that little bit of international business, to the people who grow and produce this product. The third option that you can choose is we call family to family. Muhammad and I have been friends over 2 years, and my wife and I have been fortunate enough to be able to help Muhammad and his family by sending them a little cash now and then through Western Union. No banks, no NGOs, no BS at all, no exorbitant percentage or cuts or profits. All the money that you send, whether it's for a bottle of aspirin or a revamping of their home, a little bit bigger project, it means so much to them, people who have almost nothing. So if you would try to imagine what that bottle of aspirin or vitamins for their anemic children would mean, and think about getting involved. It's very easy. Muhammad will introduce you to Palestinian people there in Gaza. You can talk to them as I do with Muhammad. We become friends, and then we figure out together what can be done to make their lives easier and better while they struggle for their rights. Good afternoon, Muhammad, once again. That's our traditional introduction, and I'd like to ask you about the current situation in Gaza. I understand that some of the entry gates have been closed on both the Egyptian and the Israeli side, and this is where all the foodstuffs and living supplies must come from, because Palestinians cannot go out and get them themselves. In a quick statistic, 200 to 250 trucks per day maybe usually reach inside Gaza. But that means that with 2.5 million people, half of them children, over 12,000 people must be taken care of from one truck. This is impossible. It's more as if we're looking at a slow, quiet genocide, because the illnesses involved, the starvation, the lack of medicines is dire. And there we are. Muhammad, how are things now even more complicated for you?
Good afternoon, brother. I am happy to be talking with you again today. In fact, the situation is very bad, because we have these days we have a complete closure for the checkpoints on the borders with Israel, because we have the Jewish festivals. Now we have so many Jewish religious festivals, like Yom Kippur, like Hanukkah, etc. So many continuous festivals inside Israel. All the borders are closed, totally closed. Even the daily flow of trucks is stopped. We haven't our daily amount of trucks. So I think you can imagine it's a very, very difficult situation. So many sorts of goods are absent in the market. Other sorts of goods are very, very expensive. For instance, I went 2 days ago to buy 1 kilogram of sugar. It was very, very expensive. It was like $2 per 1 kilogram. In the
And
usual situation, it cost only $1. So we have a doubled the price. We have to pay $2 instead of one to
and the
buy one
numbers
kilogram of sugar.
the numbers of trucks that I cited and the proportion of that in relation to the population, that's on a good day. 12,000 people being supplied supposedly and impossibly from one truck. Now, because of the Jewish holidays, what most of the truck drivers are taking holidays off and they don't bother to make the deliveries. It seems like a rather barbaric way to celebrate your religious holiday by forgetting and starving the Palestinian people.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is what happened. Whenever they have when they have religious holidays, directly they close all the borders. And I think you know very well that Jewish people are having so many holidays during the year. I think they have more than 10 religious holidays each year. So each month we have similar closure for the borders. When we ask why, they have stopped the flow of trucks. The answer is Jews are taking rest now. They are making some pray inside their synagogues. They doesn't drive their trucks in order to bring you some food. Now they have holiday. So
Well, that's what my feminist friends would call typical patriarchal religion. You go into the holy house and you pray to your God and hope that he finds you morally satisfactory. And meanwhile, you're responsible for feeding a captive population and you don't bother to do that so that you can go and pray with what? Integrity? The only thing I can add is that I think I've seen one story, and that was in Mondoweiss, very much focused on Palestinian issues about this closure. But the consequences for Palestinian people are simply beyond the pale. No medicine, no fresh water, no good fresh food. It's just beyond outside understanding, and it gets worse with every lack of reporting about it. So how are you mainly coping? You say that you had to get a kilo of sugar for cooking and so forth, and it was twice the normal price. How do you cope, Muhammad? Tell people how to survive such a situation.
yeah, unfortunately, we haven't other choice. Uh, we haven't a multi-choice in order to choose. We have only one choice. You have only to wait the checkpoints to be opened and the flow of trucks to come to attend with their cargo. Uh, we are not allowed to import our goods by ourselves because we have no airport, we have no seaport, we have no land routes taking us directly to the world. So we are living inside the cage, and the the Israeli occupation is the only responsible on your food, on your electricity, on your gas, on your medicine. And unfortunately, as you just mentioned, when they have some sort of holidays, they neglect us totally. They doesn't give us any sort of attention.
But
Only
the word neglect doesn't quite cover it though, because there's an aggressive side to it as well. They know very well the consequences of these kinds of shortages. And B, you mentioned the airport, seaports, other connections to the outside world, but there's another one that's missing. In other words, fish has always been a very big part of the Palestinian diet. They're living along the coast, and the boats cannot go out far enough to make good catches of fish because of Israeli rules. They don't want boats going very far out where people are likely to see that the country of Greece is working with Israel to steal natural gas from under the sea near Gaza, near Lebanon, and that whole Eastern Mediterranean region. So it's as if their cruelty and their neglect together combine to make life hell for these people. And I hope that connects in people's minds with, again, what we've already said. By participating in family to family or making your own contacts and using Western Union, you can reach over the barriers, over the walls that confine them and starve them and kill them and help them in some way. So we please really urge you to think about getting involved with that. And I have to tell you, just personally, in one sentence, that my friendship with Muhammad and his family, my wife and my friendship with them, has been the most wonderful, rewarding, empowering, and uplifting experience we've had. And I hope you'll believe me on that, that it is really worthwhile. So, Muhammad, we have a kind of pre-decided topic that we wanted to talk about today that extends even the conception and the description of Palestinian confinement, and that is the international rules around Palestinian travel, their ability or not to travel to other countries. Now, we could begin with a news story that came out just last week that the American Biden administration and its Homeland Security Department have okayed Israeli citizens a 90-day visit to the United States with no visa. They used to have to fill out a B2 visa form, and now they only have to show their passport. And that is the case also in Greece when Israelis want to come to Greece now. This is under a system called the Electronic System for Travel Authorization Visa Waiver Program. And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who you can tell when he's lying because his mouth is open, he says, this will make it easier for U.S. citizens in Palestinian territories to travel between inside and outside. But he doesn't mention that there are already numerous cases of Palestinians with a Gaza identity card being refused entry, even so, to all these countries that are supposedly affected by this. This is a new law or a new classification for American Palestinians. Mohammed, how many American Palestinians do you know? How many Palestinians do you know with American citizenship?
they are very, 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 very seldom.
Almost
Very, very
none.
seldom.
So
We
this
cannot count.
is a change in the law that affects mostly the ease with which Israelis can come to the United States, showing just a passport and not needing a visa anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, you won't believe what we're going to tell you today, the details of how all this works or doesn't work against the Palestinians. Mohammed, I'm sorry I interrupted. Did you want to say something?
No, 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 brother. Yeah, I think they are very, very few in their number. So they are a very, very small minority. Most of them are available in West Bank. Here in Gaza, I think we haven't 3 or 4 persons who are American Palestinians. Yeah, so yeah.
Well, in our friendship, Mohammed, we've talked many times, and you've expressed it as a kind of a dream of yours to come and visit me and my wife here in the island of Crete, which has been anciently, historically connected with Gaza and ancient Palestine. So we started looking into the different requirements, if any, let's say, that we began with, for what it would take for you to be able to physically come here. And I thought it would be interesting to share the following info and see what you think of it. In Israel, or rather in Greece, where I am, an Israeli only needs a passport. For your visit, Muhammad, you would need what they call a Schengen visa. That is for 90 days. It costs 80 euro. Where you're supposed to get that money, we don't know. You'd need to show your passport. You'd need to show evidence of purpose for your entry into Greece. You'd have to explain, I guess, that you want to come and learn about history and know the people and how you produce evidence of purpose. I'm not exactly sure. Proof of your financial means. I suppose that means showing your tax return, where you work, how much you make, etc. Proof that you have a place to stay, accommodations, a round trip airline ticket, travel insurance with at least $30,000 worth of coverage, and an invitation letter from someone we don't know. That's what it would take you to come and visit us here in Crete. I don't know how you could possibly fulfill all those things. And even so, they say on their official web pages, they could turn you down at the airport. They could tell you to turn around and go home. We don't even have to explain why. Meanwhile, the Israelis run them right through with just their passports. Many people may be aware that the Greek and the Israeli governments have becoming buddy-buddy and splitting up the natural gas resources of the Eastern Mediterranean and hoping for a big major pipeline into Southern Europe, which may be or may not be connected with the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipelines. Uh, Mohammed, out of the things I mentioned, the Schengen visa, evidence of purpose, proof of financial means, proof of accommodation, travel insurance, an invitation letter, how do you feel? Do you feel that that is a doable thing? Would you be able to do that? Would
Yeah,
you be able
in
to
fact,
bring all those things together to give yourself a chance to come to Greece?
yeah. To be frank with you, I believe strongly that my travel to Greece or to Crete, it will look like a Caesarean birth. It will be like a Caesarean birth, not a natural birth.
Yes.
I know very well that I will face so many obstacles because the Greek authorities have put so many obstacles in front of
Go
me
on.
and in front of any Palestinian citizen who is looking to visit Greece. I think this is some sort of discrimination. This is discrimination between humans because the Palestinian person should make so many procedures in order to prepare his papers and to make a submission for the visa. But on the other hand, the Israeli citizen is welcomed without making any kind in any sort of procedures.
Yes.
He will enter the country like a gentleman. He will be welcomed, and maybe they will throw a red carpet in front of his feet. So it's
Yeah.
a melancholy paradox.
And
Unfortunately, as I told you, it's a sort of discrimination, and this is against the soul of the international law.
yes, and when I described all the things that Greece would require of you, that is to say, what the EU, the European Union, would require of you to visit any country at all within the EU. Now, we can test your proposition also. Is this discrimination by looking at the policies vis-a-vis Israelis versus Palestinians in other countries who are not EU? Okay, and we'll do that in a moment. Uh, but I think I want to point out that you did have, before the lockdown of Gaza many years ago, you did have one experience of traveling to Italy. Is that right, Muhammad? And what was that
Yeah,
like for you? Was it easy for you to go at that time?
yeah, it was very, very easy because in that
Because
time,
because someone sponsored you, right? A professor at one of the universities, you said?
yeah. In fact, in that time, I received only one phone call from the Italian consulate in Jerusalem. They phoned me and they told me a university in Italy has requested a Schengen visa for you.
Ah,
Uh, yeah, are you going really to travel to Italy? I told them, yeah, of course, I agree. They told me just one thing. Uh, I have only to make only one procedure, which is to send them my passport by, uh, here in Gaza, we haven't the ordinary mail,
yes.
the mail. So I should send my passport with a passenger who is going to West Bank or Jerusalem. In that time, I searched in my area and I found a woman who was going from time to time to make her to make her uh,
Business?
she was she was a
Okay.
patient with cancer and she was
Ah,
going from time to time to Jerusalem to
yes.
take the radiation treatment.
Now,
Yeah. So
did you have to give her your physical passport or a
yeah,
copy? You
no,
had to
no,
give the
the
real passport?
yeah, the real passport. I handed my passport to her, and she was very, very good woman. Directly, she gave the passport to the Italian consulate, and after 2 weeks, I received the passport back by the same way with a passenger. Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, think of how easily it might have been lost. And then you would have to start over from the very beginning of everything to establish your true legal identity, to get a new passport, the expenses involved, the processes involved. Well, let's go further now and test this hypothesis a little bit. I did my homework on admission to the UK, which is no longer part of the EU. Israeli travelers need only a passport, just like in Greece. Palestinians need that B2 visa, which involves, they say, 9 different documents, 7 steps of procedure, and a personal interview. Now, how in the world would you do a personal interview? By Zoom, perhaps? How would they prove that that's really you? It seems as though it's built to prevent the whole idea of your visiting the UK if they can. And yet they just open the door for an Israeli with a passport, walks right in, 90 days, free, go enjoy. That sounds like
Yes, yes,
discrimination to me.
yes. It's really a sort of discrimination. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I will share one more bit of process information and see what you think about this. Israelis now, under that law that the Biden administration just passed, that reform of policy, which is aimed at both Israelis who only need a passport now and no visa, or for these almost non existent Palestinian American citizens who might be living in Gaza. They don't even seem to exist. It seems like that's there for wallpaper to make it sound as though it's fair to both sides, but in fact, it doesn't even apply to the Palestinian side. Now, as I mentioned, when Mr. Blinken opens his mouth, we know he's lying, right? But listen to the United States. Any Israeli with a passport can walk in and stay without a visa for 90 days. Just finish going over that. In regard to Palestinians, and this is their language I'm sharing with you, They presume that you intend to immigrate. They presume that once you get there, you will want to stay and live in the United States and forget about your family and all your woes and tribulations, right? Just to do that, you need a B1 or a B2 form to get a visa, not a Schengen visa, that's for the EU, but an American visa. You must prove, don't ask me how, that your visit is temporary and prove that you plan to go home. I suppose by having a round trip air ticket. Then you will need a visa application, the form called DS-160. You'll need a booked appointment at the US consulate for an interview. You'll have to pay a fee of $160 for even beginning this process. You bring the DS-160 form with you, your passport, and a printed receipt for your payment. You need to have, Muhammad, a letter from your employer on the company letterhead promising that you'll go home and so you have a job. Okay. You need to bring your tax return. I don't even know if people in Gaza do their taxes according to such a system. You cannot book your flight and or your hotel until your visa is approved. You must show proof that you have money, that you have a family, that you own your home or have major financial assets. You need at least $30,000 of travel insurance, and you must submit a detailed itinerary of wherever you plan and hope to visit. Does any of that sound like something you would be able to accomplish, Muhammad?
As I told you, it looks like a Caesarean birth, you know. I don't know with what word I shall describe this miserable situation. I don't know, really, brother. But if you look, as I told you, to the Israeli civilian, he traveled smoothly without any sort of obstacles in his way. Yeah. And the Israeli citizen decides to travel during very few hours. For instance, this morning, if I want to travel in the evening, I have only to carry my passport in my pocket and to take my handbag and just to take the nearest flight to Europe, to USA. It's a decision of very few hours. But here, if you want to travel, you have to make a strategic planning for your travel. You have to make negotiations with so many people, because even here in Gaza, you are inside cage. You have to make negotiations. You have to make some talks with the Palestinians, with the Egyptians. You have to make something, we call it coordination. It's some sort of negotiation with the Egyptian border police. You have to talk with them. Of course, you are obliged to pay a sum of money. So you have to negotiate with them about this sum, how to make it reduced, how to make it, you know. So it's a very, very tough operation for us to travel. But the Israeli citizen, it looks like a decision, a very, very easy decision. Within very few hours, you decide and you take your bag, your passport, and you travel directly.
And
here you need so many months. Here you need so many months to prepare for this Caesarean birth.
Yes, and now for the benefit of our audience also, you and I discuss many very difficult and dark aspects of your existence and the people around you, the Palestinians in Gaza, the territories, etc. But we find ourselves laughing sometimes because that's all you can do. If you don't want to cry, then you laugh because it's just insane and impossible. Let me take a children's crayon, a colored marker that children use, and make one generalization here. If I had to deduce the single thought behind these differences between Israelis' treatments and your treatment, I would have to say this is how they think. All Israelis are good and safe and would never hurt anyone. And all Palestinians are potential terrorists who will come and murder you in your bed or blow up your house just for the fun of it or to express their hopeless rage, which we have created. Does that sound too simple, Muhammad? All Israelis are good and all Palestinians are deeply suspect. What kind of fucking justice is that?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, my answer will consist of two parts. The first part will be I will tell them that Palestinians stopped the international terrorism inside the airports, inside the train stations in Europe and in other countries since 38 years. Nothing is registered after the Achille Lauro hijacking operation.
Yeah,
And
in the 80s.
yeah, and
In the 1980s, that was.
yeah, 1985, October, this
Almost
month.
40 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, and in the same year, 1985, we have another two attacks in Vienna, on a Vienna airport and Da Vinci airport in Rome. Some Palestinian armed men used to attack the civilian passengers in
All right,
those
so they
ports.
still blame you for these
Yeah, yeah,
acts
yeah, yeah,
of many
yeah, but
years
really,
ago.
yeah, but really, and of course, I am as a historian, I can challenge anybody to bring me something newer. I think after Achille Lauro and the attacks on Vienna and Rome airports,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, one single bullet was not shooted by the Palestinians. And in that time, Arafat told the American administration, okay, I am going to stop all what's called international terrorism. And now we have a new path, which is the peace and negotiation with the international community. This is number one.
and so in
Number
spite,
two,
go ahead. Sorry.
yeah,
Number
this is
two.
number one. Yeah, number two, it's really that from time to time we have so many Palestinian passengers who are submitting for travel to Europe, to Canada, to Australia, to USA, in order to immigrate for an eternal life, to stay
Yes.
there for eternal life.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But if you want to search for the reason beyond this phenomenon, what is the reason which push those Palestinians to seek migration and to stay all
That's
their
right.
lives
Yeah. Why
in
would they want to do that?
why? Because here in Gaza, as I
It's
am telling
hell.
you,
You're in
I
hell.
cannot find food for my children.
Right.
I cannot find medicine for my father, my
Right.
mother. Yeah. So this is the biggest reason. So don't ask me, but ask the the the, the, the responsible on this suffering.
That's right. Now, with our last 5 minutes or less, Muhammad, I'm going to play the role of some official in one of these countries, and I'm interviewing you, talking to you as you come into the airport, and you present me all the work, the paper, the documents, the evidences that satisfy their criteria to admit you. So, Mr. Muhammad Jihad Ismael, is that your name, sir?
Yes.
Okay, I see the name Jihad in your name. Doesn't that mean armed struggle? Doesn't that mean that you might well identify with the more violent wing of the Palestinians? Can you satisfy me and my suspicions that jihad in your name is not anything to do with the will to commit bad acts? How would you do that?
Yeah, in fact, the word jihad is existed inside Arabic language so many centuries before
Of
the coming
course.
of Islam.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it appeared even before Christianity. So it's not an Islamic term. It's an Arabic term, and originally it means the person who is looking for his dignity, for his existence.
Yes, but
Yeah,
I have to tell you, Mr. Ishmael, that we
yeah,
in our country, we don't really like to hear about things from before the Christian times. It may suggest that you think you're better than us because you were there first. All right. But let's move on to some practical things. How much money did you bring with you, Mr. Ismail, and where did you get it?
yeah. I have some hundreds of dollars in my pocket.
And where did you get it?
I Yeah, I used
Can you
to.
prove where you get your money from?
I haven't a clear proof because I haven't
Okay, then you're in trouble.
permanent. Yeah, because I haven't a permanent job in my country.
Okay, now we also ask you to prove that you have a family. Can you prove that you have
Yeah,
a family? You could show me a picture of your beautiful wife, Gada, and your lovely
yeah,
small young children. But how do we know that
yeah,
that's your family? How can you
yeah. I
prove that
can.
that's your family?
Yeah, yeah. I can show you my national identity card, and it clarify the name of my wife and the names of my children.
Okay, you might have a chance on that one, Mr. What is your name? Mr. Ismail. Sorry. Can you prove, Mr. Ismail, that you own your own home or that you have other major financial assets?
Yeah, yeah. I can prove. I have the papers of our municipality. Here we register our houses in the municipality, and I have my papers.
Okay, you're supposed to provide us also with a detailed itinerary, Mr. Ismail, of all the places that you'd like to visit. Now, I see the places that you've listed, but how did you find out about them? What are your sources of information for the places you want to visit in our country? This makes us a little uneasy.
Yeah. In fact, I am going to visit my friend, and he will help me to go so many to go to so many destinations in the island. I think
Okay.
he will be so helpful, and he will help me.
Well, would you mind waiting about 10 hours here at the airport while we contact Mr. Dempsey and ask him all kinds of questions to see if he is not in some kind of conspiracy with you? We're very worried about our security. You know, we take that very seriously. As you can
You
see,
will
ladies
need
and
that.
gentlemen, there's a reason why on the public governmental forms they say, even with all this accomplished, we can still just turn you away and send you home at the airport. This is the kind of rubbish and discrimination that most countries exert between Israelis who come in with a passport for free and Palestinians who come in after a third degree that is virtually impossible to satisfy, depending on the mood of the person that day when Muhammad shows up arriving at the airport. Muhammad, I think we've killed this subject today, and I thank you for all your cooperation and information about it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and we will see you again very soon. And we hope very much, all of us,